Elena Carter had perfected one skill in life that no one ever talks about: becoming invisible. Not physically, of course. She was there every day, standing behind glass doors of one of New York's most powerful corporate buildings, Hawthorne Enterprises. But somehow people looked at her and saw nothing beyond a junior executive assistant. Same hairstyle, same plain outfits, same quiet, yes sir and yes ma'am. She didn't complain, she didn't stand out, and she definitely didn't make mistakes, because mistakes were dangerous for someone like her. At 28, Elena was a single mother. Her world didn't revolve around promotions or luxury. It revolved around Noah, her 6-year-old son, who believed his mom worked at a big, important tower, helping important people. And that was partly true. What Noah didn't know was everything else. Every morning, Elena would wake up before sunrise in a small apartment in Queens. She would quietly prepare Noah's breakfast, pack his school bag, and leave a small sticky note on the fridge with a heart, drawn in pen. Then she would step into another life, a life where she wasn't mom. She was Elena Carter, assistant to the executive board, a title that sounded powerful on paper, but in reality meant endless coffee runs, documents no one explained, and meetings where she was expected to stand silently in the corner. But Elena didn't mind, because silence kept her safe. There was something about her past that she never spoke about. Not to coworkers, not to friends, not even to herself, unless the night got too quiet. A past she buried so deep, it almost felt like it belonged to another person. Almost the only physical reminder she carried from that life was something she never showed anyone: a tattoo, hidden carefully on her hip, always covered by professional clothing. A small, precise symbol, meaningful only to those who knew where to look. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't fashionable. It was a mark, a connection to a chapter of her life she had sworn to forget. There was also another one, a smaller marking near her upper back, usually hidden beneath blouses and blazers. It wasn't visible unless she let her guard down, which she never did, because if anyone saw it, questions would follow. And questions were dangerous. That was something she had learned the hard way. Elena's life at Hawthorne Enterprises was predictable. She arrived at exactly 8:15 a.m. She left at exactly 6:45 p.m. She spoke only when spoken to. She smiled only when necessary. She had mastered the art of existing without being noticed. Until the day everything changed. That morning, something felt different in the building. There was a strange energy in the air. Employees were whispering in hallways. Security seemed more alert than usual. Even the elevator ride up felt heavier, like everyone was waiting for something important. Elena noticed, but didn't ask. People like her didn't ask questions. By 9 a.m., the entire executive floor had gathered in the main conference hall. "Elena, make sure everything is ready," her supervisor said sharply. "No mistakes today. The new CEO is arriving." Elena paused for half a second. New CEO. She had heard rumors, of course. Everyone had Adrian Cole, a billionaire, at 32. A man known for turning failing companies into global giants. A man who never stayed in one place too long. A man who didn't tolerate failure. And now, he was coming here. Elena simply nodded. "Yes, sir." She adjusted her tablet and followed the team into the conference room, setting up documents with practiced precision. But deep inside, something shifted. A feeling she couldn't explain, like a memory she didn't fully remember, was trying to surface at exactly 10 a.m. The doors opened. The entire room went silent. Adrian Cole walked in, tall, controlled, impossibly confident. His presence didn't just enter the room, it dominated it. Every person straightened, instinctively, as he passed. He didn't smile, he didn't greet anyone warmly. He simply observed, sharp eyes scanning everything like he was already calculating value, weakness, and potential. Elena stood near the back corner, holding her tablet, trying to remain unnoticed as always. But something strange happened. The moment Adrian Cole's eyes passed over her, he paused, just for a second. Not long enough for anyone else to notice, but Elena felt it like a sudden pressure in the air. Their eyes didn't fully lock, but it was enough to make her heartbeat shift, and for reasons she couldn't understand. She looked away first. That had never happened before. The meeting began. Corporate introductions, strategic plans, financial projections, but Elena barely heard any of it, because she could feel his presence, not watching the room, watching her. Every time she moved, she felt it. Every time she adjusted her position, she felt it again. Like she wasn't just another assistant in the room anymore. Like she was something. Recognized it made no sense. She had never met Adrian Cole before, at least, not that she remembered. When the meeting ended, chaos followed. Executives rushed out. Assistants collected documents. Phones rang. Conversations overlapped. But Adrian Cole remained seated, watching Elena quickly gathered her materials, keeping her head down, ready to leave, like she always did. That's when her supervisor called her. Elena, stay behind. The CEO wants final documents organized. She nodded silently. The room emptied now. It was just her and him. Adrian Cole finally stood up. He walked slowly, stopping a few feet away from her desk, kept her eyes on her tablet, but she could feel him studying. For your name, he said. Finally, his voice was calm, controlled, but there was something underneath it, something unreadable. Elena Carter, she replied, softly. A pause. Too long. Then he said something that made her fingers tighten around her tablet. I feel like I've seen you before. Elena looked up immediately. Their eyes met properly this time, and for a fraction of a second, something passed between them. Recognition, or something close to it. But she shook it off quickly. I don't think so, sir. He didn't respond right away. Instead, his eyes dropped slightly, not inappropriate, not obvious, but sharp enough that it made her uncomfortable. Like he was noticing details no one else ever had. Then he nodded slowly. Maybe not, he said, but he didn't sound convinced. Elena left the room minutes later, but her hands were slightly shaking. She hated that. She hated anything she couldn't control. Back at her desk, she tried to focus on work, emails, schedules, reports, anything to push the moment out of her mind. But something kept bothering her. The way he looked at her. Not like a CEO looking at an employee, but like someone trying to remember a forgotten memory. That night, after work, Elena picked up Noah from daycare. He ran into her arms, like always, laughing, asking about his day, telling her about drawings and friends. And for a while, she forgot everything else until bedtime, when Noah fell asleep. Elena sat quietly by the window of their small apartment, New York. Lights shimmered in the distance, and for the first time in a long time, she felt uneasy, because something inside her told her clearly her past wasn't buried as deep as she thought, and the man who walked into her life today was not going to let it stay buried, because Adrian Cole didn't just see employees. He saw patterns, and Elena Carter was a pattern he had seen before. Somewhere dangerous, somewhere she had spent years trying to escape, and now it was only a matter of time before everything came back, and when it did, her carefully built life would never be the same again. The next morning, at Hawthorne Enterprises, everything looked normal on the surface. Glass doors, fast elevators, sharp suits, silent footsteps, echoing through polished hallways. But nothing felt normal anymore. Not for Elena Carter, and definitely not for Adrian Cole. Elena arrived exactly at 8:15 a.m., like always. Same routine, same calm face, same effort to disappear into the background of the corporate world. But today, it felt different. She noticed it the moment she stepped into the building. People were talking more than usual. Whispers followed her as she passed, not obvious enough to be rude, but enough to feel intentional. She tightened her grip on her tablet and kept walking. Elena, her supervisor, called out, "The CEO has requested updated project files on his desk by noon." She nodded. Understood. But inside, something tightened. Requested by name, not the assistant. Not someone from the team. Her dot by name. That wasn't normal. in companies like this. CEOs didn't notice assistants, unless something about them had already been noticed, and that thought stayed with her as she walked toward the executive floor. When she arrived, Adrian Cole's office door was open. He was inside, standing near the glass wall, looking down at the city below like he owned every moving piece of it. And maybe he did. He didn't turn when she entered. "You're early," he said calmly. Elena paused near the desk. "I like to be on time." A short silence followed. Then he turned, and again, that strange feeling hit her, like being seen too clearly. "Leave the files on the desk," he said. She placed them down carefully. But as she turned to leave, "Wait," she stopped, didn't turn around immediately. "Yes, sir." A pause, long enough to feel intentional. "Stay a moment." Elena slowly turned back. Adrian Cole walked closer, stopping just a few feet away from her. Too close for a standard professional distance, but not close enough to be inappropriate. Still, it felt uncomfortable. "I reviewed yesterday's meeting performance," he said. Elena nodded slightly. "I hope everything was satisfactory." His eyes didn't leave her face. "It was efficient," he said, "but not memorable." That should have been the end of it. But he didn't move. Instead, his gaze shifted slightly downward, then back up again, like he was analyzing something beyond her words. Then he said something unexpected. "You hide yourself very well." Elena froze for half a second, then recovered quickly. "I'm just doing my job." But something in his expression, changeda, subtle shift, like he didn't believe her, or worse, like he already knew more than she wanted him to. For the rest of the morning, Elena tried to focus on work, but Adrian Cole's presence was everywhere. Not physically, mentally. Every time she passed the executive floor, she felt like she was being observed, not as an employee, but as a subject of interest. And that made her uncomfortable in a way she couldn't explain. Around 11:30 a.m., she was assigned to deliver confidential files to Adrian's office again. She knocked once. "Come in," his voice replied. When she entered, he was sitting behind his desk, reviewing documents. But this time, P didn't immediately speak. Instead, he waited, watching her approach. Elena placed the files down, and as she turned slightly to leave, her blazer shifted. Just slightly, enough for fabric to move. And in that moment, a small part of her upper back became visible. A tattoo. Subtle, sharp, symbolic. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't fashionable. It looked like a code, a mark. Adrian's eyes locked onto it instantly. Everything in the room seemed to pause. Elena didn't notice at first, but then she felt it. The silence, too heavy. She turned slightly and saw his expression, still controlled, but different. Focused too. Focused. His voice came out lower than before. "What is that?" Elena instinctively pulled her blazer back into place. "It's nothing." But he didn't look away. "That symbol," he said slowly. "I've seen it before." Her heart skipped. Just for a second, but enough. She forced her voice steady. "I don't know what you're talking about." Adrian stood up, slow, deliberate, not aggressive, but powerful enough to shift the air in the room. "You're lying," he said, calmly. Elena's breathing tightened. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not here. Not now. She stepped back slightly. "Sir, I think this is inappropriate." That word changed something. His expression hardened slightly, but not in anger, in recognition, like she had confirmed something, without meaning to. Then he said something that made her stomach drop. "You were trained not to react under a pressure." Silence. Elena froze completely. That wasn't a guess. That wasn't random. That was knowledge. Her mind raced instantly. How did he know that? Adrian took one step closer. Not threatening, just certain. "You're not just an assistant, Elena." Her name sounded different. When he said it, he continued. "You're someone trying very hard to stay hidden." Her throat went dry. Because he was right. But he shouldn't have been. She forced herself to speak. "You're mistaken." But I see. Even she didn't believe it anymore. Adrian studied her face for a long moment, then he leaned slightly back and said something quieter. Don't forget, faces like yours. That line hit differently. Not romantic, not dramatic. Something deeper, like memory trying to surface through locked doors. Elena left his office quickly after that too. Quickly. Her hands were slightly shaking now, and she hated that even more than before, because fear was something she had trained herself to suppress years ago. But Adrian Cole was breaking that control without even touching it. Back at her desk, she tried to breathe normally, but her mind was racing. That symbol, the tattoo. How did he recognize it? That mark belonged to a classified group from her pasta world she left behind completely. A world she escaped from. No one was supposed to know. No one, except people who had once been inside it. That thought made her stomach tighten, because there was only one explanation forming in her mind now. Adrian Cole wasn't just a CEO. He wasn't just a stranger. He was connected, somehow, somewhere, to her past. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat near the window again, watching the city lights flicker. Noah was asleep in the next room. Everything looked peaceful, but her mind wasn't. It kept replaying his words. "I've seen that symbol before. You were trained not to react. Don't forget faces like yours." Each sentence felt like a thread pulling something buried deeper inside her life. Something she had locked away for survival, and now someone was pulling it back into the light. At Hawthorne Enterprises, Adrian Cole stood alone in his office. That same night, the city skyline stretched in front of him, but he wasn't looking at it. He was looking at a file. Old, classified, partially redacted, and on the page, the same symbol, the tattoo Elena carried. He exhaled slowly. "So it's really few," he said quietly, not with surprise, but with certainty, because now he knew. Elena Carter wasn't random. She wasn't ordinary. She wasn't just an assistant trying to survive. She was part of something buried deep in his own past, too. Something that had ended in loss. And now it was coming back through her, and Adrian Cole had already made a decision. He wasn't going to stop until every missing piece of that past was uncovered, no matter what it cost. The city of New York never truly slept, but inside Hawthorne Enterprises that night, everything felt frozen. Elena Carter sat alone in her small apartment, staring at the dark window like it might answer questions she didn't dare ask out loud. Her mind kept circling the same thing. Adrian Cole knows something. Not a guess, not curiosity, something real, something dangerous. She pressed her fingers lightly against the edge of her desk, trying to steady her breathing. Noah was asleep in the next room, peacefully, unaware that his mother's carefully built life was starting to crack. And then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A deep voice came through immediately. "Don't come to work tomorrow." Elena froze. "Who is this?" A pause. Then, "You already know." The line disconnected. Her heart slammed against her chest. That voice. It wasn't random. It wasn't spam. It was familiar, in a way she hadn't allowed herself to remember in years. That night, sleep didn't come, because fear had returned. Not the normal kind, the kind she used to live with. The next morning, Elena still went to work, because people like her didn't stop. Not unless they were forced to. Hawthorne Enterprises looked the same as always. Clean, polished, powerful. But something had changed. Security presence was heavier, elevator access stricter, and employees were quieter. Too quiet. Elena stepped into the building, instantly sensing it. Something was wrong. Before she could reach her desk, her supervisor intercepted her. "Elena, CEO wants you in his office." Now, her stomach tightened. Not again. Not so soon. She nodded. Understood. But every step toward the executive floor felt heavier than the last. when she reached Adrian Cole's office. The door was already open. He was waiting, not sitting. Standing like he had been expecting something urgent when she entered. He closed the door behind her, locking it. That sound made her pulse spike. "Elena," he said calmly, "we need to talk." Her voice came out careful. "About what?" Adrian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward his desk, picked up a folder, and placed it in front of her. "Open it." She hesitated, then opened it. Her breath stopped, instantly. Inside were documents, old files, redacted mission logs, photographs, and a symbol, the same symbol as her tattoo. Her fingers went cold. She slowly looked up at him. "Where did you get this?" Adrian's voice was quiet. "I should be asking you." That silence filled the room. Heavy, pressing. Then he said it. "Raven Unit." The name hit for like a physical shock. Her grip tightened on the folder. "That doesn't exist anymore," she whispered. Adrian stepped closer. "It used to." Elena's breathing became uneven, because that name wasn't supposed to be spoken, not outside classified circles, not ever. Her voice lowered. "You shouldn't know that name." Adrian's expression was part of it. That sentence shattered the air between them. Elena stepped back instantly. "No." "Yes," he said firmly. "And I remember what happened the night it collapsed." Her mind flashed flashes. She had buried night, operations, emergency, signals, running through dark corridors, alarms screaming, people disappearing, betrayal, chaos, and escape. Her hands started shaking. "No one survived that extraction," she said quietly. Adrian's eyes didn't leave hers. "That's not true." A pause. "Then you did." The room felt too small, suddenly, too suffocating. Elena shook her head. "I don't remember you." "That's because you were taken out before the final breach," he said. "You were prioritized for extraction." Her voice cracked slightly. "Why me?" Adrian hesitated for the first time, just a fraction. "Then, because you were never supposed to be inside Raven Unit in the first place." That hit differently. Something deeper, something hidden. Elena stepped back again, her mind spiraling. "I don't understand any of this." Adrian moved closer, but not aggressively, carefully, like he was approaching something fragile. "I think you do," he said quietly. "You're just afraid to remember it." A long silence followed. Then Elena spoke, barely audible. "The tattoo." Adrian nodded. "It's not decoration, it's identification." Her throat tightened. "That means you were marked," he finished. "Not as a soldier, not as an agent, but as something else." Her breathing became uneven. Her past wasn't just returning, it was being rewritten in front of her. Suddenly, Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His expression changed instantly. Cold, focused, dangerous. "Stay here," he said sharply. Elena frowned. "What's happening?" He ignored the question and moved to the window, scanning the street below, then quietly said, "They found you." Her blood turned cold. "What does that mean?" Adrian turned back to her. "It means the people who erased Raven Unit know you're alive." Her world tilted slightly. "No." "Yes," he said firmly. "And I think they've been watching you longer than I have." Elena's hands shook. "This is insane." Adrian stepped forward quickly. "No, Elena, this is real." A beat. Then softer, "And you're not safe anymore." For the first time since entering that office, his voice wasn't CEO-controlled. It was something else. Concern. Real concern. He walked toward his desk and pressed a hidden button underneath it. A soft, mechanical click echoed. Elena stared. "What did you just do?" "Secured the floor," he said. "No one comes in or out without my approval." Her eyes widened. "Why are you doing this?" He paused and said something that changed everything. "Because I remember what it felt like when I lost people from Raven Unit." Silence. Then, he added, quietly, "And I'm not losing you, too." Something in Elena cracked slightly. Not fear this time, confusion, emotion, something she had avoided for years. But before she could respond, a loud impact echoed outside the office door. A security alarm flashed red. Adrian immediately moved in front of protective, instinctive. Not CEO anymore. Something else entirely. A second impact hit the door, harder. Elena stepped back instinctively. What is that? Adrian didn't look away from the door. Proof I was right. Another hit, then silence. Too sudden, too controlled. Adrian reached for something. Inside his desk drawer, a concealed weapon, Elena noticed. Her eyes widened. You have security protocols in your desk. He didn't answer immediately, just said, stay behind me. The door handle slowly turned. Elena's heartbeat rose. Whoever was outside wasn't coming to talk. Adrian leaned slightly toward her, without looking away from the door, quietly, almost like a promise. No matter what happens next, I won't let them take you. The door began to open, and Elena Carter realized something terrifying. Her past wasn't just catching up, it had already arrived. The moment the door handle turned, everything inside Adrian Cole's office shifted into silence. Not the calm kind, the dangerous kind. Elena Carter took one step back without thinking. Her heartbeat was loud enough that she was sure it could be heard across the room. Adrian didn't move. He stood between her and the door, protective, controlled, ready. The door opened slowly, and then the lights flickered once, twice. Then the entire office security system beeped sharply. Alert, unauthorized breach, detected. Elena's breath caught. What is happening? She whispered. Adrian's eyes didn't leave the door. They didn't come to talk, he said quietly. A shadow moved behind the glass, then another, and another. At least 3 figures outside the office. Elena stepped back instinctively. Her mind screamed one thing. This is not normal corporate security. Adrian reached under his desk and pressed a hidden switch. Immediately, thick steel panels slid down over the glass walls. The office transformed from luxury glass space into a sealed, secure chamber. Elena's eyes widened. You planned for this. Adrian didn't answer, because the next second, boom, the door exploded inward. Wood and metal fragments flew across the room. Elena gasped, covering her face. Smoke filled the air. And through it 3 masked intruders stepped inside. Black tactical gear. Silent movement. No hesitation. Not employees. Not security. Something else. Elena's body froze. Adrian moved instantly. He grabbed her arm and pulled her behind the reinforced desk. Stay down, he ordered sharply. One of the intruders raised a weapon, but Adrian was faster. He fired a controlled shot from a hidden firearm. The intruder dropped. Instantly, Elena's eyes widened in shock. You, just not now. Adrian cut her off. Another intruder rushed forward. Adrian blocked, disarmed, and slammed him against the wall with precise force. It wasn't chaos. It was trained precision. Elena realized something horrifying. He had done this before, a lot. The third intruder hesitated for half a second. That was enough. Adrian hit a hidden alarm panel under the desk. Deep siren echoed through the building. Then he turned to Elena. Can you run? Her voice shook. Answer me. She swallowed hard. Yes, good, he said. Then he pulled her up and moved toward hidden exit behind the bookshelf. But before they could reach it, the third intruder spoke. Raven Unit survivor, located. Elena froze completely. That name. Again. Adrian's jaw tightened. So it was confirmed. They weren't here randomly. They were here for her. Adrian grabbed her. Fan now, he said. They ran. The hidden corridor behind the office was narrow, industrial, and dark. Emergency lights flickered as alarms echoed behind them. Elena struggled to keep up. Who are they? She asked breathlessly. Adrian didn't slow down. People who should have stayed buried. That wasn't an answer. But it was enough to terrify her further. Behind them, footsteps echoed. They were being followed. Adrian pulled her through a steel door and locked it behind them for a brief moment's silence. Elena leaned against the wall, trying to breathe. "What is Raven Unit?" she finally asked. Her voice cracked slightly. Adrian paused, then looked at her for the first time since the attack started. His expression softened, not fully, but enough. "It was a covert program," he said. "Special operations, black-level missions. No records, no identity." Elena shook her head. "I don't remember any of that. That's because you weren't supposed to survive it." Silence, heavy silence. Then she whispered, "Why me?" Adrian looked away for a second, then back. "Because you weren't a soldier." A pause. "You were an asset." Elena's stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" Adrian stepped closer, slightly, careful, controlled. "You had access to encrypted systems, memory-linked coding, psychological mapping." Her breath became uneven. "That's not possible." "It is," he said. "And they were afraid of what you knew." Elena shook her head. "I don't know anything." Adrian's voice softened slightly. "You do. You just don't remember it." A loud crash echoed outside the door. They were getting closer. Adrian immediately moved again, pulling her through another passage. But this time Elena stopped. He turned back. "What are you doing?" Her eyes were shaking, but steady. "If I'm the target, why are you protecting me?" That question froze him for a fraction of a second. "Then because I failed once before," he said quietly. That hit her harder than anything else tonight. He didn't elaborate, but she understood. He had lost people like her, and he wasn't going to lose her again. They reached a secure, underground parking area. A black vehicle was already waiting. Elena hesitated. "You planned an escape route too." Adrian opened the door. "Get in." She didn't move. "Not yet, Adrian," she said softly. He stopped. First time she used his name. Not CEO, not sir. Just him. That changed something in his expression. She continued. "If I get in that car, I'm trusting you." A beat. Then he nodded. "Then trust me." For a moment, she hesitated, then got in. The car sped through underground exits as alarms continued above the building. New York lights blurred past the windows. Elena sat in silence, processing everything: her life, her identity, her memories, or lack of them. Adrian didn't speak at first. Then quietly, "They will keep coming." Elena looked at him. "Who are they?" He paused, then said the truth. "The people who created Raven Unit." Her stomach tightened. "They're not done with you," he continued, "because you're evidence of something they erased." Elena's voice shook slightly. "And you?" Adrian looked at her. A long pause. Then, "I was assigned to protect you." Silence. "But I failed the first time." That moment changed everything. Not just fear, not just confusion. Something deeper formed between them. Trust mixed with guilt, mixed with something neither of them were ready to name. Elena looked out the window, then quietly said, "I don't know who I am anymore." Adrian answered, without hesitation, "You're alive." A pause, "And right now, that's enough." The car continued through the night. Unknown direction, unknown future. But, for the first time, Elena wasn't alone in running from her past. She was sitting next to the one person who had already been inside it. And Adrian Cole silently made a promise to himself. No matter what the truth was, no matter what Raven Unit had done, he would protect her this time, even if it meant burning everything else down. The underground road stretched endlessly into the night. The car moved fast, too fast for comfort. Elena Carter sat in the passenger seat, staring out of the window, but not really seeing anything. Her mind wasn't in the present anymore. It was breaking apart, piece by piece. Adrian Cole drove in. Silence for several minutes before finally speaking. "They won't stop," he said. Elena didn't respond immediately. Then quietly, "Who exactly are they?" Adrian's grip tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "The ones who built Raven Unit." That name again, Elena exhaled shakily. I need the truth, she said. All of it. A pause. Then Adrian nodded. Then, you're not going to like what you hear. The car stopped. At a secured underground facility. Outside. The city, no signs, no lights. Just a hidden structure, beneath an abandoned industrial zone. Adrian stepped out first. Come with me. She hesitated, but then followed. Because at this point, fear didn't matter anymore. Truth did. Inside, the facility was cold, metallic, and silent. Old monitors lined the walls. Files, equipment, a place frozen in time. A place that remembered everything. She forgot Adrian led her into a central room, and there on a large screen was a file Raven. UNIT, Project Orion. Elena's breath stopped. That's not possible, she whispered. Adrian turned to her. It's real. He pressed a button, and the screen changed. Images appeared. Training rooms. Subjects. Medical. Scans. Encrypted data logs, and then her face. Elena stepped back instantly. No. Her voice cracked. That's not me. Adrian looked at her carefully. It is . Double quotes, silence, heavy, crushing. He continued. You weren't recruited like the others. A pause. You were created. Elena shook her head violently. No, that's insane. Adrian didn't stop. Raven Unit wasn't just a military program. It was a behavioral intelligence experiment. They've built individuals with enhanced cognitive memory mapping. He pointed at the screen. We're the only successful neural imprint. Subject. Elena's legs felt weak. She grabbed the edge of a table for support. That's impossible, she whispered. Adrian stepped closer. It's not. A long silence filled the room. Then a video file opened. Automatically, a younger Elena appeared on screen. Different hair, different expression, but the same eyes. A voice behind the camera said, Subject E7 shows full recall capacity. Memory encoding stable. Proceeding with extraction protocol. Elena covered her mouth, tears forming without permission. This isn't real, she whispered, but it was all real. Adrian spoke softly now. They erased parts of your memory after the collapse. You were never meant to remember what you saw. Elena's voice broke. Why? Adrian hesitated, then said, Because you are the only one who knew the truth about why Raven Unit was destroyed. Silence again. Then Elena whispered, What truth? Adrian looked at her for a long moment, then answered that it wasn't an accident. The room felt colder, the air heavier. Elena slowly turned toward him. So, what are you saying? Adrian's voice lowered. Raven Unit wasn't shut down. A pause. It was erased. Elena's eyes widened. By who? Adrian didn't answer immediately. Then finally, people who are still in power today. That hit differently. Not just fear. Something deeper. Danger. Elena stepped back slightly. If I was part of this, then why am I alive? Adrian looked at her directly. Because someone made sure you escaped. Elena frowned. Who? A long pause. Then Adrian said quietly, I did. Silence shattered everything. Elena froze completely. What? Adrian stepped closer. You were in the final extraction list. I was assigned to secure your exit. His voice dropped, but I was too late for the others. Elena's breathing became uneven. You were there. Yes. And you didn't tell me. I wasn't supposed to find you. Again, he said quietly. A pause. But I did something in that moment. Changed. The air shifted not. Fear not. Confusion. Something heavier. Something emotional. Elena looked at him differently now. Not just CEO, not just protector, but someone tied to her. Survival. Her voice softened slightly. Why me? Adrian didn't answer immediately. Then, because you mattered more than the mission. Silence. The first crack in her emotional wall appeared. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the facility. Red lights flashed. System breach. Detected. Adrian immediately moved. They followed us. Elena stepped back. No, we were careful. But Adrian was already grabbing a secured case. They always know where Raven data is accessed. Footsteps echoed outside. Getting closer, Elena, breathing quickened. I can't do this again, she whispered. Adrian turned to her instantly. Yes, you can pause, and you won't do it alone. The door exploded open. Men in tactical gear entered. Not random. Attackers, organized, professional. Elena instinctively moved behind Adrian. But this time, something was different. He didn't just protect her, he shielded her. Completely. Gunfire echoed. Adrian moved with precision, pushing her behind reinforced structures. But one of the attackers shouted, "Retrieve subject E7, alive." Elena froze. They were not here to kill her. They were here to take her. Adrian heard it too. His jaw tightened. "No," he said quietly. Then louder, "Not again." He activated a system. The entire facility began locking down. Doors, ceiling, corridors, closing. But the attackers kept coming. Elena grabbed his arm. "Adrian, we have to leave." He looked at her, and for the first time, his expression softened fully. "No," he said. "I'm ending this here." Before she could react, he pushed her toward a hidden escape tunnel. "Elena, go." She shook her head. "I'm not leaving you." A pause. Then he stepped closer and gently touched her shoulder. First time, real contact. Not professional, not distant, human. "If I don't do this," he said quietly, "they will never stop hunting you." Elena's eyes filled. "Then come with me." Adrian smiled slightly. A broken, tired smile. "I wish I could." He stepped back and activated full facility lockdown. Emergency shields sealed him inside. Elena screamed, "No, Adrian," but the door was already closing. Adrian stood on the other side, looking at her. Calm, certain, alive. "I promised I wouldn't lose you." "Again," he said through the glass. A pause. "I intend to keep that promise." The door sealed completely. Elena was pulled into the escape tunnel as the facility erupted into chaos behind her. Later, outside the facility, she stood in silence. The night wind cold, the world too quiet. He was gone, or so she thought. Her hands trembled. And then a black vehicle pulled up behind her. The door opened, and Adrian Cole stepped out. Alive, bruised, but standing. Elena froze. You survived." He nodded slightly. "I told you," he said quietly. "I don't break promises." A long silence. Then Elena walked toward him, slowly, until she stood right in front of him, for the first time. No distance, no walls, just truth. "Adrian," she whispered. He looked at her, and something finally broke between them. Not fear, not duty. Something else. Elena exhaled. "I don't know who I was before." A pause. "But I know who I am now." Adrian waited. She stepped closer. "Because of you." Their foreheads nearly touched. The world around them faded. Not enemies, not past, just two survivors of the same buried history. And for the first time, Adrian Cole allowed himself to feel something he had buried for years. Relief, because she was alive. And Elena Carter finally understood something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Her past wasn't just a tragedy. It was the reason she was still breathing. And the man standing in front of her was not just her protector. He was the only person who had ever truly seen her, before she even remembered herself. The truth was no longer hidden. It was standing between them, and this time, they would face it together.